I was on Twitter a second ago and it came to my attention that 12 years ago today, one of my favorite PlayStation exclusives of all time released. We're talking PlayStation exclusives across all PlayStation platforms, PS1 to PS5, PSP, PS Vita, whatever your favorite PlayStation games are, this ranks among the top of them for me, and that is Sucker Punch Productions' Infamous, the very first Infamous game released on May 26th of 2009, and I have so many fond memories of this game. I have a lot of fond memories of 2009 in general, one of my favorite years of gaming ever, because at this point, let me give you guys some context, the PlayStation 3 had come out in late 2006, and it was firmly behind the Xbox 360, and at that point, for me growing up, that's when I first really got exposed to the console wars and just how toxic it could really be. And at that time, for me, I started learning about message boards and people talking about consoles, fighting against each other. There were a lot of Xbox fanboys, there were a lot of PlayStation fanboys, and, you know, I always took it with humor. Like, I never took any of it seriously. I don't think anybody really ever took it seriously, but you had to ascertain the fact that the PlayStation 3 was behind the Xbox 360, and it was for a variety of reasons. The Xbox 360 getting the jump start on the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 3 being a lot more expensive, and going into 2009, the PlayStation 3, the cheap model was still $400, whereas you could get an Xbox 360 for $300, and the game lineup on the Xbox 360, I think a lot of people would come to the conclusion was a bit better. Things really started to change in 2009, and it really started in February of that year with Killzone 2, but for me, Infamous, and I was always a PlayStation guy. I was always a bigger fan of PlayStation, and that's just because that's the platform I grew up with, so I was always hoping that the PlayStation 3 could make a comeback, and like I said, in '09, they really started to do that, starting with Killzone 2, and then Infamous on May 26th of 2009, and this game was incredible, guys. I remember picking it up day one, and I want to say that they also did a promotion where if you pre-ordered Infamous, you got the beta to Uncharted 2. Do you guys remember that? If any of you were growing up around this time or you played Infamous on day one, I'm pretty sure that was a little thing that they were doing, that if you pre-ordered Infamous, you got the multiplayer demo for Uncharted 2, and that might have been a little bit of an idea they got from Microsoft, Sony got from Microsoft, when Microsoft released Crackdown, and that came with the Halo 3 demo. Just something I thought I would note, but Infamous had a lot going on with it. Sucker Punch had obviously been working on Sly Cooper prior to that, so Infamous was this brand new IP. You play as this superhero, all these moral decisions, and at that time, open world games weren't like the big thing in all of gaming, so you have this open world superhero game, and it got super exciting. Moral decisions, you got these electricity powers, and it was getting a lot of buzz, but at the time, there just wasn't that many PlayStation 3s out there. And just the idea of, oh, it being a PlayStation big budget exclusive, it didn't get people excited like how it does now, where a brand new IP like a Ghost of Tsushima can just come in and be a grandiose release. Ghost of Tsushima, obviously, also done by Sucker Punch. And then there was also the interesting thread that started to develop that Infamous came out on May 26, 2009, and then I believe 2 weeks after, it was right around the same time, you had Prototype come out. Prototype, another open world superhero game, so it became like, which superhero game is gonna be the better title? Which open world superhero title are people gonna like more? Prototype being a multi-platform title, Infamous being a PlayStation 3 exclusive, so that kind of turned into its own battle where I remember the Xbox guys sided with Prototype because they could play it, and then the PlayStation guys sided with Infamous. And that was like a huge battle back in '09 as well. Turned out Infamous was without a doubt the better game. I think the majority of people would agree with that. Prototype, not a bad game. Infamous was just on another level. I remember from the very beginning, you wake up as Cole McGrath, and I don't want to go into spoilers too much, but you wake up in Cole McGrath, huge explosion. You have no idea what's going on in the opening section, you faint, and then they transition into this comic book style cutscene, which, oh my god, the comic book style cutscenes in Infamous were so awesome. I can almost hear Cole's voice reiterating what he said in that opening comic book style cutscene just because I've listened to it so many times. And I'm pretty sure it opened with something like Cole saying, while sliding in and out of consciousness, I could hear the voices of the dying. And I won't go into it more than that, but that's how big of a fan I became of Infamous, where I was literally memorizing lines like that. And the game ended up having an incredibly compelling narrative with a lot of twists and turns. And there's a big plot twist towards the latter portion of the game that completely changes the game and really puts it on its head, and that became a really, really interesting component of the game. If you go back and play Infamous now, is it the best open world game of all time? No, open world games have progressed so much, but I still think from a narrative standpoint and from a gameplay standpoint, with all the different abilities you have, you know, electric grenades you're throwing and stuff like that, it just became a very fun game from a gameplay standpoint. And the real bummer with Infamous to me is obviously PlayStation 3 games, we just have no way to preserve it, and it's not just with Infamous. There's a plethora of games I can go back, and kudos to Microsoft for figuring it out and getting Xbox 360 games playable on the Xbox One and the Xbox Series. And people will meme on me being like, bro, you bought a PS5, why are you looking to play PlayStation 3 games? It's not that I'm going to spend all the time in the world playing PlayStation 3 games on my PS5, but I would just like the opportunity for these games to be preserved. I'm sorry, I don't have my PlayStation 3 out anymore, hooked up to my TV or anything like that, hooked up to my monitor, nothing. It's in my garage right now. I'm not going to dig that up just so I can play Infamous. It would be nice if this game could be preserved, and it'd be nice if that this was a game that would go on sale on the PlayStation Store and I can promote it to people and get people exposed to an awesome open world title, because now Sucker Punch is going to be known for Ghost of Tsushima. That game is tremendous, but had Ghost of Tsushima come out, had a lot of people been aware about Sucker Punch, and then Infamous was on the PlayStation Store as well, hell, I'd be singing the praises of Infamous. If that game was less than 10 bucks, I'd be telling all of you guys to buy it, but unfortunately, there's no way to buy it. We're in this era where, hey, Blue Point Games, you're remaking all of these games. You just remade another game from 2009 in the Demon's Souls remake. I mean, Infamous ain't a bad one to remake. If I can experience Cole McGrath's story from Infamous 1 once again, I'd be excited. Obviously, Infamous 1 saw a follow-up with Infamous 2. Didn't think Infamous 2 was quite as strong as Infamous 1. I thought the story was a bit stronger in Infamous 1. Infamous 2 was very good in its own right. Just thought Infamous 1 was a little bit stronger. And obviously, when you talk about Infamous, you gotta talk about the replayability. Absolutely there with the different pathways you can take, and you got a distinctly different experience whether you go good or evil, so that became a large component of the game as well. And again, 09 really became that turning point for the PlayStation 3. I really think that's the year where people realize, holy hell, the PlayStation 3 has a crazy lineup of games, because guys, think about this. In just a single year, this is off the top of my head, Killzone 2 in February, Infamous in May, Demon's Souls in October, Uncharted 2 in October, and Ratchet & Clank A Crack in Time in October. That's off the top of my head. There were probably a bunch of other games that I'm forgetting about right now, but if you can center around any console's year of game releases around those 5 games as exclusive releases, that's a slam dunk to me. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. And then also, circling back to August of 2009, that's where we got the PlayStation 3 Slim, and all of these exclusives kind of came together. PlayStation 3 Slim being priced at $300. That's where the PS3 really started going, and people started giving it another look and realized how great of a console it could become, and then ultimately I feel like it did become that console by the end of its generation. But that's gonna do it for me. Let me know your guys' memories of Infamous. Maybe I'll do videos like this, just because I do get a little bit nostalgic, and when I saw that tweet, it just got me thinking about Infamous 1. So sound off in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.